Hello, how's everybody doing?
Doing
Good to,
well.
Hello.
So
good
good.
to see your faces. And for the audience that's joining us, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm very excited to have this conversation. We have titled this DEI Activists Discussing New and Old Obstacles. I have assembled a team of activists here that I've had the pleasure of knowing for many years. My name is Deidre Diamond. I'm the founder and CEO of CyberSN. I'm also the founder of Secure Diversity and the co-founder of the Day of Security Conference. I care tremendously about equality for all, especially in employment where individuals don't have control over equality. And so bringing this conversation to us all is really important to me. So thank you for joining, everybody, and for my fireside chat panelists. I'm going to let them each introduce themselves, and then we're going to frame this conversation, and we're going to get to it. So why don't we start with you, Jules? Please introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Jules Okafor, CEO and founder of Revolution Cyber. I'm an attorney, but I've had 20 years of sales experience in marketing. My company, Revolution Cyber, focuses on leveraging culture and communication to strengthen the productivity and optimize cybersecurity programs, as well as build new cybersecurity capabilities across mid-sized and larger organizations.
Yes, and I know you care tremendously about building cultures and have been somebody that's been building DEI support for many, many years. So it's great to have you, Jules.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And then Amy, please introduce yourself.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm Amy Bojack. I am the Chief Information Security Officer for Baker Tilly, and I have a number of great companies that I've been able to work for over the past 20 plus years. And I love this conversation because am passionate about mentoring anyone as they go through their career, but specifically is for women, especially those women growing in cyber and trying to figure out what's next for them. And this conversation is so important. One of the things that I have carried with me throughout my career is one of my degrees is in organizational behavior and design. And there is nothing more important than diversity in having a good, healthy organization. And I'm really worried about where this, if we don't continue to have this conversation and advocate for diversity in the best possible ways, I'm really afraid of what that will look like for future cultures in corporate America.
Me too. Me too. So well said. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to get to know you over the last year or two. I'm just so happy that you're in this conversation. I love it. Stacy.
Absolutely. My name is Stacey Champagne. I am the founder and CEO of Hacker and Heels. I help women get into positions of power within the cybersecurity industry as a certified professional coach. I run a community of just some incredible, ambitious women in cybersecurity, helping them, get recognized, get paid, get those promotions and whatnot. And I do that through my own experience of being a cybersecurity practitioner. I've been in the industry for a little bit over a decade, helping both Fortune 500 companies and startups alike, specializing in insider risk, cybersecurity program strategy, and incident response.
So great to have you. I love the work you do. Your activism for getting paid is one that we haven't taken on enough, and I enjoy every time you get out there and speak about that. We all know that money is power,
Absolutely.
and this sort of concept of should how much money should somebody make even as a not-for-profit and say, come on, men aren't having this conversation. Meaning it's not a problem. Why is it, I love that you stick up for let's make money. Why can't we make money? So thank you. Thank you for that. So on that note, let's jump off of that concept there and and put on the screen here just to shape this conversation. We're just going to have this on the screen for a few minutes. Can everybody see my stats here? Am I putting these stats on the
Yes,
screen?
ma'am.
Awesome. So why are we having this conversation? We are having this conversation because there has always been obstacles to equality for women. There's also obstacles for equality for other minorities. We happen to be talking about women today, and specifically never forgetting that women of color have it even worse than just women. And these stats, I just wanted to start here because I know the three of you deal with the same thing I do, which is people asking us, how are you feeling about the attacks on DEI and the cutting of these programs? And what does it say to you? What does it mean to you? And for me, I always come back to what it means to me is that people don't want women playing in the game of capitalism. And it is a game. There are winners and losers. And yet money is power and freedom and safety and all these things. And when I put these stats up here to say that women comprise 24% of global workforce, cyber has a lot of income in it. So do so does being a chief information security officer, which is 16%. And these stats are overwhelmingly proof that we need programs, and that's what DEI means to me. It's programs to support creating channels that don't exist to help women get into the power seats and other minorities. And so when I see programs being disassembled, it makes me feel physically sick because it's not fair that everybody doesn't get a chance to get in the game. And so I'm going to stop there. I'm going to take these stats off because I want to look at my lovely panelists here and I want to see their faces as we talk through what I just have to say. So Stacey, why don't you go first? What's going on for you with this conversation?
Yeah, I think, what we're seeing and hearing is a fundamental misunderstanding of what DEI is. There is, specifically an assumption being made that merit and diversity are mutually exclusive in saying that you can either be the best at your job or you could be an identity, an underrepresented identity. You can't be both, right? But that's just so not true. Like, we couldn't be further from the truth. And we have plenty of studies that show how many underrepresented identities outperform, white cisgendered typical trajectory type people, right? We have plenty of studies that show how more diverse teams lead to, more innovation, more revenue, you name it, right? And the purpose of DEI was never about shouldn't have ever been about quotas or making sure that we hired people based off of particular looks or image or attributes or whatnot, right? It was more or less about making sure we had processes that really ensured the best people got the job. There's this sort of, flawed logic in this idea that, like, the people who have diverse identities who are in the top spots or who have been in the top spots, unfortunately, many of them are being removed at this moment, that they got there because of their identity, because they were a woman, right? And so actually the mechanisms of DEI can help dispel that by showing, like, no, it wasn't about their identity. It's objectively based off of the system that we've put in place to objectively measure and select the most competent, most capable, highest qualified person, that this person is the right person. And yeah, they happen to be a woman, right? And so trying to address that is really difficult, right? Because people have a lot of charged emotions right now around, they don't even say diversity, equity, and inclusion out loud. They say DEI. It's DEI this, DEI that. Oh, they're a DEI hire, right? And it's almost like, well, hold on a second. If you say those words out loud, what does it mean to you? And do you think do you think you're saying what you actually believe? Or, because many of these people, if you take those words out and you have an honest conversation with them, they want the same things we all want. They want the best person to be hired for the job.
I think, you've touched upon two things that I want to pull out here. One is what you're saying is DEI is process and programs to help underrepresented folks get into jobs and get promoted and all those things. And yet what the people are saying is, no, it's forced upon us to hire people of a minority status, and that we're forced, and that it's not a merit-based system. That's the rub, right? Like, that's what all of this has come down to so much so that we've all even found ourselves in conversations like, do we not use DEI terms? What words are we going to use? Because this is not a new conversation. It's still the conversation of how do we get support for equal opportunity. And hey, we don't want men hurt because of it. Nobody's looking for that. Nobody wants that. That's not what this is about. And if that's happening, which it could happen, that in a public company, a woman got the role over a more qualified man, that could happen. And guess what? It's been happening to women forever, that men get promoted over women because of relationships and bonds, and just easier, and all these other things that have happened. And hey, there's also been men hired over men, not on a metric system. There is no metric system, by the way. Hello, I've been out talking about it for 10 years. Measurable agreements, making them and managing them is our number one problem. So to me, it's just sad. It's just sad, to your point at the end, Stacey, that most everybody does want kindness and fair and equality. And yet when money has so much power, and jobs have so much power to how we live as we grow older, it can get yucky, and it's gotten yucky, and it's sad. And I hate that's what's happening. And I really appreciate you pulling out that merit-based that's what the attack on the conversation is. And so, Jules, on that note, this, changing our words, like, we need the metrics, we know that, but what does this all say to you?
I truly believe that the DEI conversation is an attempt to weaponize a counter approach to what traditionally had been accepted, which is there's the boys clubs. The boys clubs, if I know you and you know me, I get you into my company and you go from there. Somehow that still remains merit-based. I'm not sure how that worked, but it still does. In fact, I'm seeing that much more happening, especially in tech. And no one questions when that new guy comes in whether they can do the job. They give them a chance to come in and prove themselves. My suggestion is that, one, I chose to do this LinkedIn Live because I don't want to run away from DEI. And the more and more I see it, what I've noticed is it's dystopic, because like Stacey said, there literally is no issue if you hire a diverse candidate, whether that person has the merit to take the job. In fact, most women and minorities have more qualifications and also are required to hit many more check boxes before they will be hired. And so the diverse hire that makes it through the very patriarchal, racist, often very neurotypical process, they've had to jump through several gates in order to get to the position they're in. They're likely much more qualified than the people who didn't have to do all of that. So what I'm asking people to do is to look at the words. And whenever someone tells you that it should be based on merit, ask them what they mean. When you say merit, what constitutes somebody is qualified for a job? Tell me specifically what they should be looked at for. And then let's take a look at who we're hiring and whether everybody on that team meets specifically those things. Because what you'll find over and over again, because I'm a Black woman, the assumption is that I got some cheat or I could not perform or I'm less qualified. I'm an attorney. I've spoken before Congress multiple times, 20 years in sales. I own my own business. I own my own home. First to even, sort of get into cybersecurity in the spaces that I've been in, and a founder, multi-million-dollar business. The idea that I'm not as qualified as another founder is absurd. And every woman that I've met has similar stats. They are exceptional. So to minimize them because they're women, or because they are LGBTQ, or because they grew up in the wrong neighborhood is elitist and is unnecessary.
Yeah, I really like we need to be thinking about this as weaponizing, as you said. This is, words make wars, stop wars, words control everything. And to your point, Jules, this is weaponizing DEI. And those words, diversity, equity, and inclusion. They really are out of order. Through inclusion, we can get equity, and then we can get diversity. And so, but the three are being thrown out together. And so let's understand that what we're talking about is throwing out an inclusion behaviors. And taking out inclusion behaviors will impact negatively for everybody, not just minorities, because typically, a company that cares about DEI also just cares about people. And so anybody who's coming, actually willing to go out there and say, yeah, we're not doing that anymore, that to me is a sound for anybody working at that company that people aren't really wanting to care for employees. And there's also this like war on labor that's a part of this. And there's always been a war on labor, but we've kind of masked it for a while. And it seems, or at least I feel like it's been masked for a while. And all of a sudden it's in my face a lot now. This weaponizing is a war on labor as well. These are good paying jobs. This is independence for women too. And so many things. So thank you, Jules, for that narrative on how it's being weaponized. And it's silly. It's just wordsmithing to cause harm. Like, fix the problems instead of saying, no more DEI.
But I think the other thing is when they come up with this one, DEI is bad, and then we go, okay, we're not going to say DEI. We're only giving up more of the space. We're actually allowing them to take, not only weaponize, but then that word takes on the connotation that they're interested in. One thing to do is to counter it, and maybe we've got EDI. We just change the words in different, because IED already exists, and I didn't want to go there, but what can we do to counter it with other words, with the same word used in different contexts, but we keep giving up the word, and that's what really concerns me.
Oh yeah, companies are doing it left and right. I heard whole human was instead of DEI, they called it the whole human initiative, which just means we make sure that the human has all the pieces they need. It's like, okay, great, fine with me, and except as long as it's not just kicking the can down the road shit where, we're just changing words. Can we still achieve? Amy, and then Stacy, I know you want to talk about this. What do you think, Amy? What's going on?
Yeah, to be 100% fair, this is such a complex and personal conversation. This affects every one of us in a little bit of a unique way. First, I look at the three of you, and I am so grateful that we were all raised in a period of time where we were encouraged that we could do anything. And I feel honored that I get to sit with the three of you as founders and CEOs of your very own company. So you have broken glass ceilings because you refuse to admit they were there. And it's hard to see that others that we have paved the way for success, may struggle with things that we thought we overcame. Right. That's really where I see that the conversation going backwards is really scary for me, because there isn't going to be enough of us that were in the workforce that paved these roads to remind folks of how far we've come. So that's why these conversations, I think, are so important, to remind people of how far we have come, and what the risks, the conversation that we're having right now is to not allow a backwards slide, and we are fighting for continued forward momentum that I think all of us have played a role in. And, because of the powerhouse that's on this call, my approach and my thoughts are a little bit more of that. How did I get here? I get that question a lot. Like, how did I get here? What steps did I take to overcome? How did I get to be one of the 13% female CISOs in companies in America, right? And it is not without its struggles. It is 100% resilience based, personal resilience, and just choosing to continue to move forward. But I would say that one of the most foundational pieces that I carry with me is having a very, very strong foundation in people management, human management in your teams. If you look at the way you build a team today, you have to have skill sets that deliver all the capabilities. We'll use cyber because that's where we all live right now. And I know we're going to get to hear in a minute too on this conversation, but if you know the skill sets of the team that you have to have, you know that they're diverse. You cannot have all of one type of technical person on your team, because we do have to cover 12 different disciplines of what it means to be successful in cyber. So you can't expect that you're going to have one that can do it all. You have to have the tools in the skill sets that come with the folks. And with that, when you look at that as just one layer of the people you hire and the team that you build, then you can absolutely make sure that you're making sure that not everybody around you has the same opinion. Right, making sure that you're intentionally introducing alternatives, opinions, backgrounds, experiences, and that is exactly. I 100% agree with the turning DEI upside down and starting with that inclusion. I need to be able to include everybody in a conversation, because when I have them at the table and I get the most out of them, then I know that I have built, a good, strong team across the board, and that the hiring practice has to be not just about who has the most experience, because I tell a story that I share around most experienced. If two candidates have sat next to each other, and one has always been the gentleman that received the offer because they, connected with a candidate, or as a candidate, they connected with a hiring manager because of the ability to do something that they both enjoy, right? Men and women both play golf. But if that's something that they connected over and the other candidate did not, there's going to be an unconscious bias to lean into the candidate that you saw yourself more like. And when you have that as a struggle, the candidates don't match up anymore. DEI is important because there were some candidates left behind all along. That it isn't because they don't have the right experience or the right diversity of thought. It's because the opportunities weren't always, being seen and taken, and they might be one-to-one. And just this one other thing, the ability for you to connect with that other human puts that person over the edge, and they're left behind.
That's such a great point, Amy, that, these programs said you can't just hire because you want to hire. You have to really think about your hiring too. Like they created stronger hiring processes to say, why are we hiring this person? What boxes are they checking as, important to us? And it, what would be there if it wasn't that golf connection? you know, you know, and that is very true. That's what we mean by what metrics.
Right.
What metrics are you measuring against? And I think that's where we all have to lean in, if you will, even though I don't love that term because I didn't live that. But
I think there should be far more unconscious bias training than anything else in corporate America.
hiring processes is a big piece of our solutions. Was there anything, Stacey, did you want to say something before we get into solutions?
Yeah, and it's this. It's that, I feel like oftentimes when we are having these conversations, there's an assumption that both sides are operating in good faith, right? And that, there's one side, there's, us as the underrepresented individuals, wanting to work together and find a solution that works for everybody. And then there's this other side, the side that has been, weaponizing the words and stuff like that. And it's also the side of like, as Jules had mentioned, the people who are very happy with the way things are, with the power that they currently have, their ability to hire their friends, to hire their buddies from the golf course and stuff like that. And they don't want that to change, right? And so when you try to have conversations with them, it doesn't go anywhere because they're trying to preserve where they are at. And sometimes that is an assumption, that is done because of an internal fear, right? That like there's, objectively only so much power to go around. And if I give you power, then I lose power and all that kind of stuff, right? Like that fixed mindset. And I think that's something that's so important to consider, that as we come to the table and try to have these conversations, to keep in mind that not everybody actually wants change, right?
Right.
And I don't necessarily have a solution. I think if we did, we would hopefully be in a better place today than where we're at right now, right? But I think that that's something to really keep in mind, that like, especially if you are in a position of power within an organization and you see people on your staff who, kind of have that resistance, take a measured, this approach as to, how much you're going to do to try to educate that person and bring them on board, versus recognizing that they're just not there, and continuing to try to appease them is dragging down the rest of your progress.
When you speak about that, it makes me think of, that's why we have laws. There's this level of laws govern when there's a minority group, because I do believe it is a minority group today that wants to weaponize DEI. That that's what laws are for, is because that's always the case. It only takes one person to ruin a team. We all know that. It only takes one person to ruin a party, and so there have to be laws, and we've had to make laws for women's rights. I mean, was born in 1971, and that was the year women got to have a checkbook for the first time. That's crazy to me to think about. Thank you for saying that, Stacey, and sharing that, inclusion is what we want, and we want that for everybody too. We really want that for everybody. There's no solution. By the way, this is never going to go away. Inequality will never go away if we don't find a way for equality for every human. I mean, come on, because equality is access to resources that we need to live, and access to safety. So it's super ridiculous in so many ways that this even exists as a conversation, and yet it does. So I put a poll out there that said, how many women feel like their careers are already being impacted? And that was about 4 weeks ago, negatively being impacted. And 57% said they already have experience. And that's why we're here, is that to Amy's point, we are at this point what's called accomplished, which only means there's enough people that vouch for our abilities and can say we're legit business people because, right? I mean, that's the game of how you get a brand, is that you do good work. And there's a lot of the other a lot of minorities who haven't had the time yet to do that, or haven't gotten the opportunity with the right people. Like for me, it was two white men that worked for 21 years. I wouldn't be sitting here without, who gave me an opportunity to thrive. And so, we got to get into solutions, and solutions that, for those of you that are in power already, in leadership roles where you get to hire solutions, and then solutions for those of you that aren't, in terms of managing up, and also solutions for, don't beat yourself up if you're not in a safe place to be an activist at work. And Stacey, I'd like to start there, because I know this was something that even sparked me from making this LinkedIn Live, which is, not a lot of people can make change in their own organization. And so how do they feel like they're doing something?
Yeah. I have two key points around that. The first one is to cultivate your own power and agency. And specifically, this kind of really gets into the money. So a 2021 analysis found that the women's median household wealth was 55 cents to every dollar of a man's median household wealth. So we basically have half the money, right? And women keep the majority of their money in the bank, while men invest the majority of theirs, which basically means that you're missing out on returns that can add up to hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars over a lifetime. And where this becomes important for us is, the fact that when women have more money, you can leave a job that isn't serving you, and at its worst is actively harming you, your physical and your mental health. And so, the systems today like really rely on that codependency that you have with that employer. And so any way that you can kind of break that codependency and really build your financial independence, that is, one of the best tools that you can have to really kind of, protect yourself and kind of force the system to have to do differently, because they're no longer to be able to exploit you in that mechanism. The other is just around using your energy wisely. And I can speak from my own firsthand experience that spending all your time and your energy trying to convince a company that is set in its ways to do things more equitably can ultimately actually end up harming your career progression. And so your number one priority, if you're working for a corporation, is to first and foremost do the best job possible, to be that example of everything that women are capable of, and specifically in your core requirements. So be an excellent threat intelligence analyst, be a top-notch AppSec engineer, and then from there, if you have the bandwidth and you want to try and influence some internal processes or politics, like you can go ahead and do that. But I just wouldn't do it at the expense of your performance at the job that you were hired to do, which, many people out there, I know that you're already doing this. I know that you are doing a great job, and you're starting to push back against the status quo. But from my experience, and I hear the stories out there of so many women, that can put you in positions that just, it makes it unsafe for you, right? Your job is at risk. There are some companies that just don't like change agents, even if you're a high performer. These companies have literal budgets to offboard these kinds of people, and they deal with whatever lawsuits might happen. And so really just I can't stress enough to be thoughtful about whether or not it makes sense for you to try to affect that change internally, or versus taking that energy and bringing it elsewhere outside of the company into one of the many advocacy organizations, or your own initiative that you can more so benefit from and take with you. And I know Secure Diversity is a good plug there as one of those organizations you might want to channel your energy and time into instead.
Stacey, I love it. I love how you talk. First of all, vote with your feet. And we know some of you might not be in a position where you can vote with your feet to leave your employment until you save up some money. Or we also know job searching and matching is broken. And so it takes time. So don't, stress yourself out about it, but have a plan to get out of a toxic place. And then the rock your job side of things gives you power to continue to grow and make your own money. And Jules and I were just talking about this recording, having been founding our own companies with our own money. It's you make money and then eventually you can do whatever you want because you have a skill set, and you can work in better cultures because you can vote with your feet easier. So I love that you pulled those two things out. So Amy, why don't you go next and help us close with solutions? And then Jules, we're in solutions mode. To anybody in a hiring seat or not in a hiring seat, what would you say about how we move forward from here by staying in the conversation? Doing what?
Yeah. I'm going to jump in before Jules real quick, and I'm going to hand it off to her, but it is stay involved in the conversation. It is so easy to get to feel disheartened by some of these conversations, or to have a moment in time where you aren't winning, and you don't have the financial situation to use your feet to walk out of a toxic workplace. I mentor a lot of women who have to make those choices every single day where they go to work, and they're really working hard at trying to find a place that is more aligned with their personal contributions and their culture, and find people to talk to. There, like Stacey mentioned, there's great advocacy groups out there. There's great mentoring. If there's somebody in your network that you know personally, call them and ask to have that conversation. I do that multiple times a week for people in my personal network. And it is really just about, we have to be there to help prop each other up. And you have to be there to help make sure that we all keep showing up. It would have been very easy for me in the last 2 years to step away from this type of high focus, high stress, high visibility role. And it's the people around me, and some of the folks and ladies on this call that kept me going through that. And just find your people to help keep you moving forward.
I love that. I love that advice. And it's so true that, but together we can do lots of things. I mean, there are a lot of people that really care about equality. There are. Find them and stick with them and stay in the conversation. Thank you so much, Amy. Jules.
Yeah, I think that I request a lot of women understand their real value. And especially in cybersecurity, a lot of women are afraid to tie themselves to revenue. I think I tell women this all the time. There are certain levels in organizations you can get. I see a lot of women get into cybersecurity, then they get to senior manager, and then they don't move. And it's because at the director and above level, the rules change, right? So when a lot of women say, I'm not getting promoted, or I'm finding that there's a negative impact on me, we spend a lot of our time with our heads down doing just the work. And I think even if we're to advocate for diversity, I want more women to be on the golf courses. I want more women to be willing to go to the after hours. Now, if you have children or other obligations, that's fine. I understand. But for myself, to get from vice president to senior vice president, I had to understand, I was sales, so I had a revenue obligation, but I also had to be where my clients were. I had to know where the money for the organization was. I had to understand the financial pieces, what drives the organization's growth. And I think that even in cybersecurity, knowing that is so critical, because where I see women doing well better than their peers is in their ability to communicate, advocate, collaborate. And so if you can be the voice for your team because you understand the business, you understand the areas of the organization that many of your male peers don't, you will be promoted. Now, is it assured? No. But I find a lot of women don't even seek it out. They're afraid to even go in that direction. So I want to enable women as a solution to be their own best advocate, to sell themselves consistently, and to ask for what they believe they're worth, and then add an additional $50,000 to $100,000 on top of that.
Yes, I mean, Stacy gave the stats. They're ugly, 55% less.
Yes.
So we have to get more educated in that conversation of knowing our worth, and then negotiation skills. You know, again, coming from sales, Jules, a little bit easier for us. We were trained in that. You know, that's why I say now everybody's in sales. It's gone are the days. I mean, you know, when I started in sales, there were no computers, everybody. So, you know, this is nowadays it's all about communication, because computers are in front of us all interacting, and we're talking to each other. Everybody's interacting and working on teams. And so we all have to be in sales and know our worth. I love that message. I'll cap it off with measurable agreements. I want it on my tombstone. I do. It's the solution to everything. Manage up with measurable agreements. Know what your project done looks like such that it's measurable. Take your work so seriously that you understand deliverables and you make them where they don't exist. It is through measurable agreements that people cannot just go with their favorites or play politics or blame the wrong people. So be the one that puts metrics around everything and strive for that. Situational leadership is a great program that teaches that. It's been around since the 50s. When I found that in my 30s, it gave me a gift of operations and management. And so check it out. This already is 42 minutes. I can't believe how fast. I feel like we need to do more, because I think there's more that we can get to. I'm committed to doing that. I'm sure you'll all say yes to. Let's do another. Bring more of a conversation to. We want everybody having equality, and yet we understand that the paths to equality don't exist for minorities of gender, of color, and of lots of other things that matter to humans. And so the only way to do that is to create paths for all those minorities and keep paths for those that have it. It's not about taking. We can't. That doesn't work. And it's also not about having too much, which is a whole nother conversation of where we're going as a society. Capitalism's been around a long time, so a lot of separation going on. And so that's a whole nother conversation, which is why I'd love to keep it going with you, amazing humans. Thank you for taking time to share your thoughts. And I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.